Continuing our tour of the ME345 lab equipment, I'm going to show you the function generator over here and the oscilloscope. So to get started, I'll turn them both on and then tell you a little about what they do. So the oscilloscope is used to view signals that are changing quickly, which is different than our multimeter, which we use to measure signals that are more or less constant over time. The function generator, on the other hand, helps us create some signals which we'll measure with the oscilloscope. So it can create sine waves, for example, which we'll most often use at different frequencies. So first of all, we want to connect these two together, and we'll use a BNC cable for that. All you have to do is push it into the oscilloscope, and you want to use the output that's labeled output 50 ohms on the function generator. Don't use the TTL CMOS or the input over here. So I was using this before, but most of the time when you turn on your, let's go over here, you turn on your oscilloscope and hook it up to the function generator, you'll get something on the screen that doesn't look a whole lot like anything. And if that happens, I'm going to show you the most useful button on the oscilloscope first, which is the auto set button. Your oscilloscope may look slightly different than this, but it should have basically the same type of functionality. So you push that button and magically the sine wave that you're looking for appears on the screen and everything looks great. So definitely remember the auto set button if you get yourself in trouble. But let's take a look over here at the function generator again. So we're seeing a sine wave that was produced by this function generator. And right now, if you look over here, I can set the frequency. I'm in the 10K range up at the top here. And this is telling me that I have a 5 kilohertz sine wave. So I could reduce the frequency to 3, or I could increase it with the coarse knob here. And if you want a finer resolution on the frequency, you can use the fine adjustment knob here. There's a couple other knobs here for the amplitude of the sine wave and the duty cycle, which you can see distorts the sine wave. So for the most part, we're going to want to have the duty cycle turned all the way over so that it looks like a sine wave over there that you expect. You could adjust the offset, which we also usually won't want to do. So you can change the type of signal that's being generated. I could create a square wave, which you can see over there, or a triangle wave. Like I said, most often we'll use the sine wave. And you can change the range up at the top here. So once again, let's say I switch now, I have a 42 hertz sine wave. You could play around with the scale here to try to get the sine wave to appear on the screen, but usually if it's set like that, I'll just hit the auto set button and it'll take care of everything for you, which is pretty nice. Let's take a closer look at the oscilloscope, and I'll show you a couple of the buttons you'll want to know about. So first of all, let's take a look down here. You can see that the oscilloscope gives us some information about the frequency of the sine wave and the peak-to-peak voltage of the sine wave that we're seeing. Those come in handy pretty often. You also may want to take some measurements other than those off the sine wave. So you can see if I press the measure button, I have, for example, the maximum and the minimum. And you can change these measurements by pressing the button next to the measurement and changing the type. You can also view different measurements by using the cursor here. So I press the cursor button, and then you can change the type to amplitude, or you could do time. And here you can see I get these cursors that I can line up with different points on the sine wave. So I can go to cursor number 2 and bring that in. So you may use this to, for example, take a closer look at the top and bottom peaks of the sine wave.